The Power Rangers has done what many other series have not been able to do, and that is to last 30 years with new seasons every few years. Each season is very special because each one represents the beginning of the love for the series by some fans. This series began in 1993 when Sabans wanted to use scenes from a Japanese series and turn it into a new American series. He spent several years taking the idea to several companies, but no one wanted to do a show like that because they thought it would not be successful. After many attempts, he was able to get a company to want to do the show, and from there the Power Rangers began. I must say that the pilot program was terrible, but even so, this first episode passed all the tests and started the path of what would become one of the most famous series in the history of television. The first team was the most iconic of all, and they had the opportunity to break all barriers. Obviously, all of this was a risk as no one knew if the show was going to be a success or a total failure. These actors were taking a big risk. Some of them even have said that at that time they had no money, and this was the only chance they had to succeed as actors. After the success of the TV show, the success of the toy sales also started, and this is what made the company a lot of money. It must be remembered that the Power Rangers were always focused on a child audience, so the sale of toys was very important as it represented a big part of the profits, and at that time the toys sold a lot. Obviously, times have changed and now toys are no longer as important. This has been one of the reasons why the Power Rangers is possibly going to change after 30 years of having the same format, but we will talk about this later in the video. The way that the Power Rangers has been created is by using scenes from the Japanese series when the Rangers are transformed. This way they only had to record the voices and film some scenes with the American actors without having the costumes. This way they could modify the story, but at the same time they didn't have to spend a lot of money filming all the scenes, including the Megazord scenes, which are possibly the most expensive. After having created many episodes in Mighty Morphin, the producers realized that they had no more Japanese scenes to use for new episodes, so they had to find another solution. The Japanese series had several seasons, and every so often they changed the characters. This was exactly what they started to do with the Power Rangers. They bought more scenes from other seasons, and every year they changed everything. The new seasons had new names, new costumes, new themes, and new actors. At first, they didn't change the actors as the seasons were connected, and what they did was that the Rangers simply found a new power. Then, the production decided to change the actors because they thought they needed new faces as there were actors that had been around too long, and they were afraid that this would bore the audience. After this, they started to have new actors in each season, and this is why only the old Rangers have had different powers with different costumes. During all these years, the Power Rangers have had many different themes in which we can highlight dinosaurs, ninjas, space, and wild animals. Obviously, there are more themes, but these are the ones that have been repeated in the history of the franchise, especially the dinosaur theme. The colors have also been a controversial theme throughout the history of the Power Rangers, since the Red Ranger has almost always been the leader of the team, and this has possibly been the fault of the Japanese series. Because the franchise has always used scenes from the Japanese series, there were things they could not change, and one of these things was always the colors. This is why the last season, called Cosmic Fury, was so special, as they only used Japanese scenes for the Zords. Because of this, they have been able to implement several changes. One of them has been to include a color that we have never seen in the Power Rangers, since no real Ranger has had this color in the TV series, and that is the color orange. Despite all these changes, there is one thing that did not change, and that is that once again the color red is going to be the leader of the team. The difference is that they made history by naming a woman as the Red Ranger, and she was the first in history to be a team leader for a full season as a Red Ranger. This has been another controversial issue in the Power Rangers, as there have been very few women who have been team leaders, and almost all of them had other colors. Only one was a leader as a Red Ranger, but she was not in a full season as she was only in several episodes. Another thing that has changed in this new season is that for the first time there are the same number of women as men in the same team, and it is the first time that there are 3 women in a team. This has always been a controversial issue, but the reality is that the majority of the Power Rangers audience is male, and possibly this is why there are always more men on the teams. The producers want kids to identify with a character so that they want to become that ranger and thus want to buy toys of that specific character. Unfortunately, this is something that doesn't matter so much now because, as I said in the beginning of this video, toys don't have as many sales anymore, and this is what is destroying a lot of TV shows. Now, kids have video games, internet, and YouTube to entertain themselves without having to watch TV. Even many of these kids use television to watch YouTube channels that have been created in a style that we will never see on a television show. Although some producers think that the biggest audience for the Power Rangers series is still children, this is not really what it seems, as adult fans are the ones who continue to talk about the series. Even adults have been the ones who have bought a lot of toys to collect, and all these adults were the children who grew up watching the Power Rangers since it started. Possibly this is why Cosmic Fury was the last season of Power Rangers aimed at a children's audience, and then we will have a reboot aimed at a more adult audience. There are still not many details of this new facet of the Power Rangers, but what we know for now is that the producers of this new stage have been chosen a long time ago, and everything will start with a new universe that will not be related to what we have seen so far in the franchise. Basically, it will not be the repeated history of old characters, but we are going to have new characters, new stories, and a new style. After 30 years of making history, the Power Rangers has marked the lives of many people. This is why the franchise is still alive, and no matter what happens, it will always be alive. Hopefully the reboot will be very good so that this franchise will be alive for another 30 years and can continue to impact the lives of many people.